a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange.
Good evening, welcome to nufc Matters with me, Steve Wraith, the three amigos, perfect way to kickstart your Newcastle United weekend. And for those of you out there who may have been slightly confused by Sky Sports' coverage in the last couple of hours, Jurgen Klopp isn't dead. All he's done is announced that he's leaving Liverpool. But the way that they are covering it on there, wow. Check me tweet out. If you follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, you'll see how I'm feeling about that. I'm not going to rant about it, though. I had a good rant last week. Do I feel any better? No, I probably feel worse, actually, this week. But I'm going to let the people in the chat dictate where we're going tonight, because we've got a couple of early questions, I think. So we will go there. But welcome to Mitch. Welcome to Steve. Welcome to George. Good evening, lads. How's your week?
Hi, everybody.
Busy.
Busy.
I'll share your sig bucket, Steve.
God, George, honest to God, what a nightmare this is. I've got it on now. I don't know why I've got it on. I'm just winding myself up deliberately now. We're seeing Jurgen Klopp through the ages, a variety of horrendous tracksuits. His teeth were worse when he arrived. Actually, that's the one thing I've realized. And he did look like a proper, I don't know, like a dweeb when he arrived, didn't he? Like a proper goofy dweeb when he arrived. And now he's, I don't know, there's just something about him, like when he came in his early days.
You know what he looked like? He looked like a crazed lab technician.
Yes, that's it, exactly. Back to the Future. That's it. He's got that kind of look. But I haven't listened to the interview. I don't even think I want to listen to it now after watching this coverage. It's absolutely ridiculous. You think there was nothing else going on at all. But I guess at least they're leaving Newcastle United alone and our players alone for the time being, while they show his record and compare him to Shanks and Bob Paisley and That's Living All Right, Joe Fagan. But we'll move on quickly to a question from Paul Whiteman. Good evening, Paul. He says, hello, lads. I'm loving your work. Just a quick question regarding Joe Linton. Do you think he will leave? I don't think he will, considering he's just done the Adidas promos. If only life was so simple, Paul. Then if you do an Adidas promo, he's going to stay, mate. I haven't had time to do the press conference review. I'll do it tomorrow because I don't have a guest for tomorrow. And I'll pop on and do a live Q&A, and I'll do the press conference review at my own leisure tomorrow daytime before the cup match. I listened to Eddie today, and as usual, he answered the questions without giving an answer. And he was asked about Joe Linton, wasn't he, Mitch? And just very non-committal. He just stated what we already know, that there's no conclusion on contract negotiations as it stands, and that's that. Which for some people seem to read into it that he's away. They misinterpreted what he said, and maybe maybe newspapers will run with a line tomorrow that Joe Linton's off. But for me, I just don't think we got an answer to that question from Eddie Howe about Joe Linton at all. And I think Joe Linton loves the club. I think he loves the fans. I think he also loves being paid what he thinks he's owed, of course, like any footballer. But I think there'd be wriggle room there, and I think Joe Linton will stay. I do think he'll stay.
What people are stating at the minute are facts.
Yeah.
His contract expires in 18 months. If he goes into the last year of his contract without renewing, by the time he gets to January, he holds all the cards. So from a club point of view, you're going to remain at an impasse, cashing in on a player at the 1 year to go mark is usually the time to do it. As Eddie said in the conference, which I'm sure you'll cover tomorrow, a player's got every right to hold out for what he thinks he's worth. And there's plenty of time for negotiation, plenty of room for negotiation. What everybody's stating are simple facts, and that's modern football. Do I think Joe Linton wants to go? No. I think he's very happy. I think it's not just about doing the Adidas promos, it's doing it with the other Newcastle players. And I think it's that group, that team thing that stems from being the squad that they are. I think that's what people are picking up the number on. It's not just the fact he's doing them because he's an Adidas footballer. And he's been brought in with other Adidas footballers in our squad to do these ads. However, I read it as positive as well, to be honest with you. I don't think we've got a player in our hands who wants to go, who wants to agitate to go. He's also, he's given back after he's been looked after. He was looked after by the club during his drink drive case and was treated like an adult, not like a child, and took his punishment like an adult. And I think, again, that adds to the feeling of positivity within the group. There's plenty of time to sort this out. Now, the stories being run, are they being pushed from a club perspective to apply a little bit of pressure to Joe Linton to say, hey, we could sell you? Don't know. One thing's for sure, I think it would be a hell of a lot more expensive to replace him than keep somebody who knows the system, plays the system, understands the system, and has developed and grown within the system. Then to replace him, I think, would cost a hell of a lot more than come to an agreement with him. And equally, he's right to hang out for what he feels is the best deal for him.
Okay. What's your thoughts, Steve?
Mitch said that Joe Linton holds all the cards. Unfortunately, the club holds all the pounds. I think that's a real sort of that's the key to it. He might want to stay. Excuse me, sorry. He might want to stay, and Eddie might want him to stay. But do the powers that be upstairs want him to stay, or do they want to cash in? Are they willing to give the amount of money? And let's face it, this is the first salvo in probably a number of stretches of negotiation that will take place. And I think when it comes to June, end of the season, that's when we'll know a little bit more. That's when the cookie starts to get cut up a little bit, and we'll see whether it's on Joe Linton's side or whether it's being cut on the club side. Personally, I would be delighted for Joe Linton to stay, mainly because from a footballing point of view, exactly what Mitch said, the system's built around him, the midfield, the connection that he has, the way that he works, the way that he's developed into probably one of the most dominant midfielders in the country, and you're gonna get a second class Joe Linton, or you're gonna have to pay a ridiculous amount of money, as Mitch says, far more than the money that it's going to cost you to up his pay. Is it really FFP? Is that the true stigmata in all of this that we've got to carry? I'm not too sure. I think there's money there, but I think it's a case of whether the people upstairs have got the cojones to actually spend it right, and that's my personal opinion, Steve. So the guy's injured now anyway. He's out until the end of the season, more than likely. We might see him in the last few games, but would you risk it? Would he risk it if he feels as though the club doesn't want him? A lot of plates being spun, Steve, and as fans, we're just left watching and seeing how many crash onto the floor and who's actually keeping them spinning up, I think. So it hasn't been a pleasant week, has it?
No, definitely not. Joe Linton and George, are your thoughts, that he, there's time, some people in the chat saying he's got 18 months left on his contract, plenty time to sort out, but what's your thoughts on the Joe Linton situation?
I think Eddie Howe said it. If the bloke thinks he's worth more than he's getting, everybody's entitled to ask. That's not to say that he's going to get what he's asking for. And Steve's absolutely right. At the end of the day, the person that hold the purse strings still got a lot of say, in not just what the player's saying. So, but I look at this from a point of view of the negative press we get. If there's a story to be out there and it can be taken two ways, then they'll take it the negative way. There's no question about that. I mean, Eddie's non-committal answer today, already people are taking that to say that Eddie thinks he's played his last game for Newcastle. It's not what he said at all. Not what he said at all, but that's how they're interpreting it. So, but I agree with what Neil and Steve say. Obviously, the bloke clearly loves Tyneside. He loves what he's got here. He loves the fans. And I think he loves Eddie Howe for how Eddie Howe's turned his career around. Because let's face it, I was one of the many when he was playing under Bruce. I used to come home at night and I used to be so upset. Even my poor Marjorie that could hardly put two words together, I used to say to me, "You don't like that lad, do you?" And I used to say things like, "Well, no, because he never gets his bloody shirt dirty. He never mind do anything for the team." That kind of thing I used to say regularly. And I humbly take it all back because the bloke's performed out of his skin since almost that accident of him being pushed into midfield by Eddie Howe. And it's turned out to be a winner. And again, the lads are right. Okay, let him go. But what do you replace him with? Who do you replace him with? And how much money? Goodness knows. Are you going to get enough money for him to buy somebody that good? I don't think we would, to be honestly. So I think there's a long way to go in this. But and I don't blame Joe Linton hanging out for as much as he can get. And even Eddie had admitted that today, that they're entitled to have a go at what they've got. So I think it's a good story one way and it's a non-story in another way. I'd be amazed at the end of this season that we don't have a new Joe Linton with a new contract and still tearing up the pitches in the Premier League for next season. So I think it's he's Newcastle. Newcastle's in his blood, and I'd be amazed if he goes away from that.
Can I just add, Steve? I think there's another part of the equation as well. You've got the club being pulled in two ways, or you've got two aspects of the club being pulled potentially in opposite directions. You've got Eddie Howe, who wants to get a team out on the pitch. He has his favourites. He has a system that he wants to play. But above him, he has people who have a different agenda. They have an agenda to grow the club financially. And to grow the club financially, sometimes they feel as though there needs to be a haircut taken below. That haircut gives them a little bit more scope to bring changes within the club. And the only way that possibly can do it is through FFP. Whereas Eddie probably thinks, to hell with the FFP. I've got my squad here. I've got the players. And so he's not going to be keen to lose certain players. There'll be players in the squad that he'll be disappointed if they moved on, but it wouldn't be any great shakes. But he's got a core of players within that squad who are his bread and butter, if you like. They're his cream, and he'll not be wanting them to go. And it's how that dynamic, I think, working the upstairs, and you've got a chairman, a chief executive, and then you've got a sporting director, and a commercial team, and then below that you've got Eddie and the team itself. Well, to us fans, the most important part of it is Eddie and the team, but to the commercial guys and the guys above, it's that much more long-term aspect that they're looking at. So I think that's there's a dynamic there that gets shifted constantly. And I think, again, I mean, some of the comments there about the press and such like, and obviously the press are cherry picking little bits that they're hearing from various areas and trying to put a story together. And it just creates, for us supporters, just creates a really complicated picture that, you know, we immediately as fans go to, well, if I don't like that player, I'm happy for him to go. If I do like that player, that's the last thing I want. And at the end of the day, while the team's doing okay and while Eddie's sort of riding that crest of a wave, if you like, as he has for the last 2 years, we all back Eddie. We don't back the commercial aspect, you know. And again, that's something that the club, in part of like walking on that sand, has to be careful with. So it's going to be a strange time in my eyes over the next sort of what is it now, the 26th? So we've got 6, 7, 8, 9, 30, 5 days till the window closes. So it's going to be an interesting 5 days. And if we come out of this with a couple of signings, but we haven't lost any of our real gem footballers, and Eddie hasn't lost them, and Eddie's still there, then great.
Yeah. I'm happy that I'd endorse what Steve's saying. Look at it this way. He knows what his mate Bruno's getting in terms of salary. And I've seen various percentages mentioned in the press and on social media about whether he's getting half as much or 3/4 as much or whatever. If it's less, then surely he's entitled to say, well, how boss, what about me? I mean, that's just what happens all over, isn't it? So I'd be staggered if he's not here at the end of the season and tearing up the grass on the Premiership next year.
Yeah, okay. El Jordio says, us in the press, we can talk all day till we're blue in the face. Rumours, opinions, debates. But at the end of the day, the club and the players decide. We haven't got a voice in this. Sit back and watch. And Stephen Anderson says, if there's any player who deserves a pay rise and a new contract, it's Big Joe. Now that he's a Brazilian international. And Benny says, have to be prepared to lose Joe Linton as a fan base. I love him, but we've got to make smart decisions. No valuable players walk for free. Hope we will get great money. We were quoted 40 million for McTominay. Tom says, deadline day will be interesting with clubs doing business. Peter Guy asks a question. He says, afternoon, question for the lads. If we're struggling with FFP to an extent that we can't get a couple in this window, what do you expect we do in the summer when we've got half a dozen out of contract? Now, Mitch, this is interesting because, again, Eddie's key word during the press conference was FFP and the variants that you can call it or mention about it. I found the Calvin Phillips question interesting, where he was asked about Calvin Phillips. Was it the one that got away? He admitted that they had been interested in him, but that FFP was the issue. And when we think about it, you know, if the press weren't far from the mark, they wanted a £7 million loan fee, and we had to pay some of the wages or all of the wages. We're not sure what the situation was. We kind of do a deal like that, we are going to struggle doing anything, I would have thought. That's the way I understood it.
Can it or won't? I look at that deal as it's being reported going to West Ham. 7 million, no obligation to buy, paying all of his wages, and the guy's not played 90 minutes of football for anybody this year. That's mental. That's not just a big risk. You might as well withdraw the 7 million in tenors and take a lighter and burn them one by one because they'll probably last longer. Yes, I think there's more money to play with than there's been shown. FFP and other elements have become a little bit of something to hide behind. Whether there's a little bit of art of war going on about appearing weak when you're really strong and appearing strong when you're really weak, I don't know. But there's much more to this than I think, meets the eye. I'll be amazed if something isn't done during this window, but I also genuinely believe, as I've said all along, the focus is on the summer. The accounts that were released cover an interesting period and don't include a hell of a lot of what's come on board since, and certainly won't include what's going to come on in the run-up to the summer and the next season. The counterpoint to that is the COVID losses disappear off of the 3-year cycle soon, and so we've got to be aware of that. That'll be another one of the bear traps that Everton will walk into if they're not careful, for example. There's not a lot of business being done this window at all. I think that reflects on how everybody's got one eye on FFP, and I think everybody's got one eye on the summer. And again, as I've said throughout since the start of January, I think we'll have a month's worth of business done in 48 hours. I think it's going to be a nonsense. And do I think we'll be in that mix? Yes, I do. To what level, I don't know. I'm with you, Steve, and I believe there's more money there than they're letting on. But why should we show all our cards?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think we've shown with the situation with Bayern Munich and Trippier, Newcastle United of the world would have just, for a club like Bayern Munich, just bent over, and dropped their pants and took it. And the kickback is, okay, if you're interested in our leader on the pitch, you're going to have to pay a significant amount of money for it. And so that allegedly is dead at the moment. Better come back in the last couple of days of the window if they're that keen.
Yeah.
And I bet the club have a figure in mind where if it gets to point X, they'll pull the trigger on the deal. But it's a deal that's got to be right for Newcastle United. That's not Newcastle United at all. That's big club behaviour. And we've got to start being and acting like a big club. How many of our previous owners and chairmen would have just taken any kind of money if Bayern Munich had come knocking on the door? Most of them. In my opinion, certainly most of them in my lifetime. And so turning around to them and saying, okay, you want to talk? Let's talk. But you're playing our game. He's our player. You'll dance to our tune. And I think that's a significant shift. I just kind of, like I say, I think the Phillips deal isn't about not being able to. The Phillips deal that's a suicidal deal in any way, shape or form. It screws your wages. You're basically burning 7 million because you don't have that option to buy. And you don't know how fit he is. You don't know how ready he is for first team football. He hasn't even done 90 minutes for anybody this season. So it was always a risk. And again, that was a deal that we would have done, but only on our terms. Now, Eddie's spoke a couple of weeks ago and said about there were people who weren't going to be doing any favours. That's obviously clearly that Man City were rigid on what they wanted for Phillips. Well, guess what? That's what we're doing back the other way. Yep. We're being rigid on what we want for a player. And like I say, that's big club behaviour. That's what we've got to get used to. The other thing we've got to get used to is big clubs know when to cut and run with players. How many players did Ferguson let go from Man United that got better after they left Man United? Not many. Not many. He knew when to cut them loose. In the peak of his pomp, he knew when to say no, move him on now. And I bet there was times their fan base were up in arms when somebody was let go. But I can't think of anybody who left Man United and got better during Ferguson's reign anyway. And again, that's big club mentality and big club behaviour.
Like
and
some
I'm
of the
all
ones
for
we
that.
bought.
Yeah, most of the ones we bought. You're right. We were the knackers yard for a couple of seasons.
Yeah.
So you know, and so I don't have any problem with any of this. I think more what we're seeing of is how much of a nonsense FFP is, unadjusted and left as it is from 10 years ago, and how much of a nonsense the transfer window is. That's it.
Yeah, I would agree. I think I think you're right though. I think it is becoming, well, it's becoming an absolute logistical nightmare, this whole FFP, Steve, and lots of people, you know, just asking in the chat about Phillips. Was it mentioned today? Well, yeah, he confirmed it. He confirmed that was impossible to do the deal. We had to move on. That gave, you know, that I think that without putting a figure on it, it did give you a sense of realism, and that's where we're at. And almost, as somebody said earlier, where is that comment? Here we are, Yano. Before the statement by Eels, every fan was moaning about the lack of movement in the transfer window. Now most fans will be happy if there's no movement. Eels, you played a blinder. Do you think that's what it's... The more I think about it, and, you know, we talked about it a lot last week, but I've got to agree. I think it probably was, you know, because I've seen it already on social media. The fact that we've had Almiron, Wilson, Joe Linton, Kieran Trippier, Bruno, Isaac, Lascelles to a lesser extent, but he has played well this season. All linked with a potential move away from St James's Park in this window. I think if we don't sign anybody, which Eddie Howe, by the way, more or less said it was, you know, it was likely there wouldn't be any incomings. Although there has been an incoming, we'll come to that one, by the way, after this point. But that really said to me, Eels maybe has played it this way, so that when we don't sell anybody, we can go, well, we've had a successful window. You know, we're not going to get what, you know, as Mitch always puts it, we're not going to get what pants pulled down. We're not going to give players away for cheap. So maybe it's been part of the plan.
It could have been. I went the other way, and I called him the silent, smiling assassin, because he just sat there grinning as he was telling everybody that we're getting nobody. And I took it as naivety, because the whole first 48 to 72 hours of screaming from fans led me to believe that possibly Darren Eales didn't quite grasp what Newcastle United is about and what the fan base are like, what the passion is, how much we care about the club. And when we hear something that's airing on the negative towards the club in terms of progression and progress, we're not only disappointed, but we're screaming from the rooftops, because that's the way it came over, the reaction. He didn't actually come out and say we're getting nobody, but he kind of put the brakes on everything, all the hopes and dreams that were out there. He silenced the press. He made, in terms of the Phillips deal, I thought he made us look stupid. And has that been confirmed by the fact that West Ham have got him and haven't paid a ridiculous loan fee? Haven't ended up having to, according to the press, sign a deal that says it's with view to a permanent deal, or linked to a permanent deal that's literally just a 6-month loan till the end of the season. So it seems as though West Ham have got him on terms that weren't available to us, weren't offered to us, or that we didn't ask. We went in, we were told what we were told, and then we walked away. That's could possibly be the way that some of us are reading it, and so we are read it. So yeah, it could be in the cold light today look as though what you're saying, Steve, that he's played a blinder. But in my eyes, when you rock the boat to the extent that you did, and the storm that he created on Tyneside, as I said on We Are the Geordies, Storm Eels took over from all the other storms that we've had in the last few days. It smacked of in the teeth, personally.
George, thoughts on this? You know,
Well, I said last week that what I thought about Eales just putting a damper on fans' expectations. That, you know, he clearly was there just to do that and very little else, quite frankly. And of course, it gets exaggerated and multiplied by 10 in the press, and makes it look even worse. Frankly, I think FFP's been used by Newcastle United as a crutch, is my honest answer. It's an easy out. And the Phillips deal, I think Neil's absolutely right. 7 million loan fee, and then God knows how much wages. And you don't even know if he's going to be fit. And my worry would be, this is a young man who went for the World Cup and came back so unfit, his own manager wouldn't put him in the team for nearly 6 weeks. Now, is he like that now because he's not been in the team for God knows how long? That all of that sticks in my mind with that lad. That is there something there that we haven't cottoned on to? The other thing I like, and the lads have already said it, going in and saying we would like, and they're saying this is what it'll cost, and we're saying, well, sod off, you can keep him. That's been a big club again. The Trippier thing. Somebody said on the strap line that they think there'll be another bid on deadline day. So do I. And I think if it gets up to 25 million, then he's gone. But I don't think they're keen to pay that much money. But I do think they're right. There will be another bid. This morning, Eddie's press conference, he was taking it as, that's it. It's over. But then he qualified it by saying, but I never say never, because I don't want to look an idiot. And that's him accepting that the possibility is, yes, there'll be another bid coming in, as we all have got to get used to. But it get back to this crazy window system and the way they try to maneuver these transfer things. It's totally false. It's totally false. It really is. It skews everything. It skews everything. And as Neil said, watch the rush in the next last 48 hours. It'll just be manic. You can see it coming. But it's a nonsense, really. And I'd be amazed if the clubs don't do something about changing it, even for next year. Never mind, later. But it's, the good thing out of it for me is, as lads have said, I see my club now playing hardball with others that are playing hardball with us. And fine, if you want to play it that way, it's a double-edged sword. And we have the power to buy anyway. Anyway, we don't have to buy in the Premier League. So long may it continue. And I'm delighted my club's playing big boys for once, instead of just saying, we'll take that. I mean, in the previous regime, 12, 15 million for somebody Trippier's age would have been in Ashley's back pocket before he sat down. It's just incredible. So,
Is that your door, George?
It is. I'm sorry. I'll not be long.
Okay, I'll let him go. Bill Burnett
I'll
says...
tell you the thing about Phillips, mate, which I keep coming back to.
Go on.
Is which one are West Ham getting?
Yeah, true.
Good point. If they're getting Phillips, who played his last season for Leeds, when I watched a lot of him with the Leeds lads and Goodfellas, he was one of the top 4 midfielders in the country, bar none.
Yeah.
Bar none. He was outstanding. I've seen none of that at Man City.
Yeah, that's a good point. Bill Burnett says, who actually knows what was offered, what was paid, and what the wages are? It's all conjecture. I've said this before, Bill. The only time we'll know what a football player gets is if they go to court. And, they say he's been fined 2 weeks' wages, which is £60,000. Then we know that the player gets 30 grand. We still don't know what kind of caveats they get for maybe scoring a goal or whatever, a clean sheet, but gives us a basic rate of pay. So it's the only time we ever find out. And all of these things that float around the internet, I would say are probably just all made up. But Blue Rhythm Boys, well, good to see Eddie squash the Trippier isn't happy up here rumor. He did, but what he said was, he more or less said he wasn't agitating for a move. Let's not get fooled by what goes on in football clubs. Sometimes, a player wants to make sure that, his reputation's intact at a football club, and maybe they don't want to appear that they're agitating. Get where I'm coming from, Blue Rhythm Boy, with that one? So not everything we hear is factual.
And so many of the journalists had that line in the aftermath of it all. I would suggest that came from the club.
Yes, that was my thinking. That's my thinking when I heard it. Yeah. All right, listen.
In my eyes, it's the sort of line that comes out when it looks as though the deal's not going to happen and the player's staying. So it's to appease those who if he had gone, or those who turn around and go, well, he wanted to go, and it caused a bit of like friction for the player, and especially after what the player went through after the Bournemouth game. So it kind of sort of settles the water, as if you like, makes out that the player's quite happy to stay or go, because that's the nature of football. And if he ends up staying, he's still one of yours, lads.
Okay, plenty to get through. Here's the day I met. The day I met, where I ask you to send in photographs of you meeting somebody from Newcastle United, past or present, and it's one of our panelists tonight who has got this photo. It's Darren, who does the fans forum, and there he is with one of the best goalkeepers I've ever seen at Newcastle, Mr. Shea Given. Darren, good photo that, mate. Fantastic. If you've got a photo, send it to me or send it to the lads, or stick it on our Facebook page. We've got a Facebook page. We've got a Facebook group. If you pop over there, just give the Facebook page a like, give the Facebook group a follow, join it, and stick your photos and stuff on there, and I'll pick them up during the week. Thanks for that, Darren. And it also gives us the opportunity, of course, to play the lovely music. I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who came along to the Tyne Theatre last night for an evening with the legends, Kevin Keegan, Chris Waddle and Peter Beardsley. Full house at the Tyne Theatre, 1,200 Newcastle fans there last night. Fantastic event. Gibbo was a wonderful host as usual. I know a couple of you in the chat were there. Alan and Mozza were there. But great night, fantastic night. Great reaction to the story. You could have cut the atmosphere with a knife last night. Everyone was hanging on everyone's word. And we specifically kept it to 82, 84 last night. We didn't want to go into what's going on now or go on to the Ashley era. It was about those wonderful seasons when Kevin came and played as a player. We heard some great stories about, Chris Waddle and Arthur Cox and the attitude that he had towards him and vice versa. How Peter arrived at the club. The missing out on promotion the first season round. And then, of course, that wonderful season, which saw us go up. So great night, had by all. Thanks to everybody who came along and supported it. We've announced a big one for next year, which if you go to the Tyne Theatre's website, tickets go on sale tomorrow. We're doing an evening with the entertainers in 12 months' time, and names to be confirmed over the course of the next 6 or 7 months. We're working hard on the names, and we should have about 16 or 17 people at that one, which should be an interesting one if you want to come along to that. And we've got this one coming up. Tickets go on sale next week. One night in Antwerp, Rob Lee at the City Hall, which is Friday, the 2nd of August. Ticketmaster is where you go for your tickets. If you've got O2, you'll be able to buy them in advance. And I'm up in Dundee with Nobby Solano. That's next month. Tickets for that, 0759 639 3387. So get yourself a ticket for that. Not many VIP left for that one, I don't think. That's through the Scottish Supporters Association up in Dundee. So looking forward to going up to do that. Still on transfers and things that could go in or things that could go out of this transfer window. Things that go bump in the night. Yes. Tom Dixon said, question for the lads. What's your thoughts on Alfie Harrison, the signing from Manchester City? He looks like a young Haaland and one for the future. Now, I'm always skeptical when I see YouTube videos. I've got to be perfectly honest. Let's face it, that's how Cisco arrived at the club. No fault of Kevin Keegan's, I hasten to add. But, he looks a player. And certainly reading between the lines, the acquisition of, one of the Man City's former members of staff at Newcastle has probably led to this transfer, and the kids come in and, Newcastle, I think the rumoured fee is around about £9 million for this kid, and he's supposed to be a wonder kid. He has had an injury, I think, of course, which is probably something which Newcastle will have had to look at before they signed him. Interesting though, Eddie Howe knew nothing about it, more or less. It was a transfer that he didn't play a part in. He said today. He picked his words carefully, but knew nothing about it, is what he was saying, Mitch. Is this an Ashworth signing?
You would have to think so. That there's something there in terms of developing the squad below the first team, but with an eye to development of the first team. Certainly, a phrase used, I gather, one of the decisions he's made is that he sees with what's happened with Lewis Maley that there's a clearer path to first team football at Newcastle United than there is to Man City. So that's fair enough. My understanding is he's dislocated both knees at one stage or another.
Yeah.
That scares me a little bit. More than a little bit, actually. But if he's one of these players who's had sort of big growth spurts at certain ages and the joints become unstable, if you're going to do that when you're young and able to recover from it, it's the time to do it. If I did it, I'd probably be on crutches for God knows how long. But surely the point of having a team and with Ashworth at the centre of the hub feeding into different parts of the club, Eddie Howe shouldn't necessarily be involved in every transfer below first team level, even if it's with one eye on developing into the first team. So that doesn't bother us particularly. And yeah, if that's come with transfer of staff between the two clubs and a recommendation and somebody let it be known that he would be open to a move, and they see a 9 million investment in a young man that could in 2 years' time be worth 30 or 40, that's a no-brainer. That's the kind of signing we should be making from an FFP perspective.
Yeah, George, he could be the only incoming.
Yes.
I just, the point I was getting at really is just, I found it strange that Eddie Howe didn't know anything about it.
Well, to an extent, so do I, but I agree with Neil as well. If you've got a team beneath you that's looking at development, then is it fair to expect them to be involved in every one that you do? But when this one's slightly different thing about this one is, one of the reasons he wants to move is because he sees more opportunity of first team football here than he does at Manchester City. And I've read as much as I possibly can about this lad, and the backstory is amazing. I mean, initially when he started, they were talking about him being as good or better than Foden, for God's sake. Well, if he's that good, amazing. But I like Neil, I can't help but wonder if this really serious injuries he's had aren't another second thought about him, so, oh gosh, that's somebody upsetting me. Liz, his mother on the bottom strap, Liz was my secretary for many, many years when I did admissions, and her and I had a fantastic relationship. And Callum, I send her my love, because she's in a home with a brain tumor at the moment, and it's tragic. So I'll not say anymore because I'll get upset. No, let's go back to Harrison. But thank you for that, Callum. If you read about his talent, I'm delighted he's ours. The only question is, has he got over the serious injuries he's had? And I only trust in the information that the club's been given, that they wouldn't let that be pulled. That wool be pulled over their eyes. I don't think that they're up on that. But yeah, when he's so talked about so highly, I'm slightly interested that Eddie Howe says he didn't know anything about it. But on the other hand, I think Neil's right. If you've got a team doing things beneath them, then you've got to let them do it. If they've got to stop every day and pick up the phone and say, "Hey Eddie, what about this? What about that?" It's not going to work. It's just that's micromanagement, and even Eddie Howe's not that good. It'll just fall apart. So that side of it, I understand what Neil's saying. But if it's just on talent alone, the reputation the boy comes with, and the fact that he's one of the reasons he's come is he sees himself as getting in the first team here easier than at Manchester. Well, I'm up for that as well. That's great. If he's got that kind of ambition, then he maybe come to the right place. Anyhow, maybe just the man to give him what he wants. So all in all, it's a very positive story for us. Very positive new man into the club, and says that we're looking to develop at the right level. Our development's up there with the best. Based, and all of that based on some of the stories that I've seen Stephen with us talking about on WhatsApp this week about some of our younger ones that have disappeared, who for a while looked like world beaters, and suddenly they've gone. I mean, what's all that? That's got to be looked at as well. So the Harrison story is a positive one for me.
Steve, what was your thoughts when you heard that that he didn't have anything to do with it? Am I just being a bit too dramatic on that, or do you think I've got?
No.
Do you think that? Because I think he should. I think he should at least know we're looking at this kid, and I don't understand why he wouldn't know about it, especially somebody as talented him, who, the stories go he's more advanced than Miley.
Yeah. I was gobsmacked when you said it, Steve, because I hadn't seen that bit in the press conference, and I'm quite flabbergasted. I'm lost for words. Actually, perfectly true. Yeah, it's supposed to be more talented than Miley. Let's put this one in its place, shall we? Lewis Miley would not be anywhere near the first team, but for a £65 million footballer who got suspended for 10 months, followed by a series of injuries to key midfielders that have stretched out over a period of time, when we've ended up with only Lewis Miley available to slot in alongside Bruno, at some point Joe Linton, and sometime Longstaff. The latter two both carrying injuries themselves at certain points in time. So in truth, I don't think Lewis Miley would have got a look in for the next 2 years at Newcastle. I think he would have gone out on loan eventually. They said they were going to keep him this year because the reason they were keeping him was because they wanted to hang around in the family environment. That's what was said at the start of the season. They took him on the pre-season tour. He did okay, and they said, well, we're going to keep this lad. And we're not going to farm him out. We think that he'd be better staying with the family, just developing that way, keeping that. Maybe it was the personality. He looks and sounds like a very quiet lad, and looks like a very immature at times 17-year-old as well. When he's talking, he's not immature 17-year-old when he's playing football. But I think the whole dynamics changed with him. I then look at the players, and George, you mentioned a few names. I mean, Sorensen was going to be a world beater. We've heard that one because we're saying it about this new lad. Dylan Stevenson was going to be a world beater. He's just gone to South Shields. Remy Savage was going to be a world beater, and he's just gone up to Caledonian Thistle for the not even for the duration, but he's actually on a permanent transfer. So there's three key players, which always leave you to question what has gone on in the academy over a long period of time, not just during the time of those youngsters, but way back through probably the last 10 or 12 years, the way the academy's been run. Badly in my eyes, and badly in the eyes of many people I know who go to watch academy football and the under 19s, under 18s, under 21s regularly, and it shows as well the talent A that we've lost, and the talent B that hasn't even made it through the door into even having an opportunity. I mean, a couple of weeks ago we had a couple of youngsters who got a run out, never been seen again. Will they be seen again? Will they ever wear a black and white shirt? I suspect not. Yet we're going up at Man City and we're buying someone with a potential at 18-year-old of £9 million that, quite honestly, I'd never ever heard of. My nephew gave us some information about him because he follows, and he's in that age band, and he follows the academy players. He knows a lot of them. He's been going to watch the academy since he was 12 or 13, and those lads in the academy were going through the academy and are now in the under 18. So he knows quite a lot of the lads. So that's why he keeps an interest. So it's a mystery wrapped up in a conundrum if Eddie Howe didn't know anything about him.
Yeah. Steve, can I come back on that? See, one of the names Steve's mentioned, and he and I's talked about them before, is Sorensen. If Sorensen had progressed the way people thought he would, we wouldn't be looking for another centre forward. He'd be the answer would be there. That's how good he was when he was first put in the first team. And if he progressed as we'd expected, we wouldn't have been looking for another centre forward because we would have had him in the dressing room. Yeah. That's where he was, wasn't he, Steve? I mean, you know, Steve's right. We've got to ask questions about why, you know, where they've all gone, and some of the others as well. Odd times are still going to university. There's a couple of lads they follow all the academy games, and they speak volumes about certain players, and he'll be good for this, and he'll be. None of them have appeared. They've all just disappeared altogether.
Yeah, so, Matty Longstaff's another one, George.
Yes,
Matty Longstaff was better than his brother. We were told.
Yes,
he scored that goal, and everybody's going. He's a little terrier. He's a little Billy Bremner in midfield. Yeah. He's a David Batty. He's going to do everything. Obviously, the injury came at a point where his Newcastle career had already stalled and was coming to an end anyway. Yes. For one reason or another. Well, I think we know the one reason was the particular manager and the way that he treated him and treated his brother, to be perfectly honest, you know. But on the other extreme, we build these youngsters up, and then as soon as they get into the first team, we kick them down again, you know. And it's a form. We know that it's a form. Chelsea have called it a form for years. They are happy. I mean, maybe this young lad's looked at Cole Palmer and thought, you know what? I was never going to get a look in at Man City. I'm not going to get in ahead of Rodri. I'm not going to get in ahead of Foden. I'm certainly not going to get a striker's position or play as a deep line centre forward instead of Haaland when he's injured.
Well, that's one of the storylines that's coming out, isn't it?
Exactly. So he's gone like a Cole Palmer and hoping that within 6 months or so he's going to be breaking into the Newcastle first team. But if Eddie Howe doesn't even know who he is, that break-in's going to be a smash and grab raid. It's not just a break-in, is it? You know, dear me.
Great idea by Nicholas from the Felon. He says every Thursday until the end of the season, 7 o'clock on the doorstep. Clap for Klopp.
That has another connotation. That has another connotation the ladies in the night in Liverpool might think.
I immediately thought, Steve, we've all got to catch the Klopp.
That's Klopp, isn't that? That's Klopp for clap.
Couldn't happen to a nicer man.
Howe said he wasn't involved in the deal itself, meaning Harrison. Not that he had no idea about it at all. By all accounts, he could be a great asset. Let's have some positivity, guys. We are trying to be positive.
Well, we are.
I think we're more positive than last week. Definitely more positive than last week. Gary V says we've got Minday to come back in June, where I imagine he'll be assessed before deciding if he'll join the squad. Joe White was meant to be the real deal. Of course, he's back now from his loan spell at Crewe Alexander. So, potentially could get thrust into the spotlight.
We've got the young lad that went up to Scotland from Australia as well.
Yeah.
Disappeared off the face.
Yeah. I'm gonna just ask you to mute yourself, lads, when you're not speaking. There is a bit of feedback. Dave's mentioned it there. I could hear it, but if it starts impeding on the listen, I might have to keep reminding you not to unmute yourselves, lad. But that's fine. Okay, we've had lots of questions coming in. Dave Havery. Oh, that got worse. I'm gonna mute you, George. I think it could be you. There you go, mate. Yeah, it's definitely yours, George. For some reason, we're getting a little bit of feedback on you. Let's see. Yeah, it stopped. Let's try it again. I'll unmute you, George. It's not great viewing when I'm doing this, I know, folks, but we've got to sort it out.
Fun.
There we go. Right. Okay. Well, look, maybe. Are you just messing around, Mitch, just to wind us up? Do you think moving out of the Richie Dummett, etc., will allow us to move into the transfer market come the summer? I mean, it's going to help, isn't it, Mitch, to get rid of some of the surplus players there. I mean, Lascelles has been mentioned, although again, Eddie came out with his usual line. Yeah, well, Jamal's done a lot for us this year, and I don't want to see him go. I mean, he says that about everybody, but there are going to be players who are going to move out. We've lost Manquillo now to Celta Vigo, so that's one off the books. But we've got to ship Richie, Dummett, Hendrick, haven't we?
Well, wasn't it something like 6, 7, 8 players out of contract at the end of the season?
Yeah,
it's a significant amount. That's a significant chunk of wages and things he can start to play with in terms of and why they're investing in somebody like Harrison. We need to be thinking of who can we bring in and how do we get clever about how we bring people in from an FFP perspective. We're also having to satisfy the UEFA rules, which are slightly different. We also then have to satisfy, should we qualify for Europe again, who's homegrown, who's not homegrown, and how that all works, and who goes in your A squad and your B squad. And, you know, if it's a Wednesday, don't pass go and don't collect $200 and go straight to jail. And all of these things need to be worked out. And having that number of players out of contract and allowing their wages to come off the payroll certainly gives us wiggle room that we don't have without. And keeping them on was always sensible, from making up a squad for the Champions League this season, from keeping a squad together, where he obviously values some people and what they do off the pitch and what they bring into the dressing room. And I know people have sometimes been a little bit sniffy about that, but don't underestimate it. I certainly don't. And so, yes, it's got to help. However, we still have to be smart, because that's a lot of people disappearing out of the squad that we have to replace. And it's not a pint of wine. It's a pint of Jim Beam and Coke. But yeah, it does, it helps, but we've still got to be clever how we replace people.
Yeah, very true. People pointing out how many's in the chat. 630 watching live. We never take it for granted. Thanks for joining us tonight on the three Amigos. George, shifting out some of the dead wood, mate. It's going to help, isn't it?
Absolutely. There's got to be. I mean, I think that's why the summer was the big plan for transfers. You know, and all the injuries and other things have just upset that. So yes, there will be. Hopefully, there'll be some big movement then, and as Neil says, 7 or 8 who are likely to go. Can I quickly, Steve, just satisfy the curiosity that was on the strap? It wasn't me kebab, it was me paying me window cleaner that I missed earlier in the week. That's why the bell went. Anyway, yeah, a lot more turnover and money to bring back in. And I think that's one of the reasons, if things had stayed as they were and we hadn't got hit with this maelstrom of injuries, because that's what it's been like. It would have stayed like that in the summer. I'm not sure we would have done much business anyway in this window. But now we've got to, in my view, we've got to do something to support Eddie Howe. Is my view about this, and that I think that's every bit as important as supporting players and all the other things. The guy's done a job for us, and if he needs support, then he should get it, even if it is on loans. I don't care how they do it, but that's the bottom line for me. It's about showing Eddie Howe that we appreciate him as much as anything else. And if they don't, what they're effectively saying is the season's over. Isn't that really what we want? No, I don't think the fans would stand for that, to be perfectly honest. It would just be a nightmare. It'd be like winding the clock back 14 bloody years, you know. So no, I don't think that's going to happen. I think get support in for Eddie Howe. That's what we want, and then end the season. All the names that have been flashing up there end the season. That's the time we'll have a shakeout. Drop all of these stats. And let's face it, some of them have been good servants. I mean, Matt Ritchie would go with me, with a big pat on the back from me. He never misses giving 100%. So,
top man.
Time moves on, and we've got to move on. And it's about being a big club again. That's where we keep coming back to. The days when people could hang around and got their pensions long gone. It's not going to happen now. So let's show us support Eddie Howe is my view about all that.
And Gary Milligan's missus has just come out and said, "Oh, isn't George cute?"
Oh dear me.
Steve?
I'll keep it short because I think the guys have covered it already. But all I say is that when Eddie comes out and says what he said about Lascelles and great servant, don't want to lose him, blah blah. I wonder if there's a little bit of, I don't know who I'm going to get as his replacement. So hence my reluctance for the player to be seen to be going, because I don't know who the people above are going to bring in, and I don't know how that's going to fit. Because I think we've heard on a number of occasions little snippets just on our little circuit of contacts where we've heard where names have been bandied around and Eddie's vetoed it. And I'm just wondering whether, because we're in the last 6 days, Eddie's now getting to the point of, hang on, I might not be able to veto that move if it suddenly gets pushed through, and I don't know who I'm getting in to replace him. Just a thought.
Okay, interesting. Jules says the feedback is when Steve Hasty talks for me, something with his connection. So it's your actual personal connection, Steve. Something that's plugged into your body,
No.
I think.
No, it must be.
It's just you. It's just the way Steve talks.
Yep.
Okay, we're halfway through the show. It's time for the ads. A big thanks to all our sponsors. Skips and Bins. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website skipsandbins.com. Easy contract, free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks again to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. If you'd like to order some, then give them a call on 01768 210 102. Go to the website, mrvickys.co.uk, or drop them an email, info@mrvickys.co.uk. A big thanks to United Group Travel. They're a family firm based in Morpeth with pickups throughout the Northeast. No strangers on our tours, just people you haven't met yet. They've got a presence on Facebook and a website, unitedgrouptravel.com. If you want to make a booking, give them a call on 01670 632 460 or mobiles 0791 666 4174 0795 71 41654. Thanks to Darren Baldwin Funerals, independent funeral directors. Let us look after you in your time of need. They're based on Old Durham Road in Gateshead, and you can contact them at their website, darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk. Email darren@darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk, or give them a call, 0191 478 2730. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. And a big thanks to New Workwear. You can find them at newworkwear.com. If you want to help the channel, hit the thumb up to subscribe, hit the subscribe button, and share to your other social media. You can also pay a one-off fee of £25 to get a scarf, a cup, a pen, and a membership card. Go to the website, nufcmatters.com, and click membership, or put your smartphone over this QR code. We also support the food bank on this channel. If you want to make some donations virtually, go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk and make a donation today. We're also a podcast on Spotify, iTunes, and other podcast providers. Just search NUFC Matters. I'm also a part of the Northeast Footy Brekkie Show. You can listen to that Monday to Friday, 7 till 9 at thetooneuk.com. Okay, welcome back to NUFC Matters. It is the three Amigos on Friday night, an hour left to go. And as you know, we have lots to get through on a Friday. So here is Tweet of the Week. Okay, starting off with this one, which was a chain of tweets on X. Philip Koku's derby. It started with this photo of this guy with a long neck. Joe Stewart said he went for a tattoo on his neck and they charged him for a sleeve. Daniel says, I can't wait for you to visit Barnsley. It'll fill you in. Joe Stewart replied that he would give him a Chinese burn on his neck. Childish, I know, but funny. She's had a tough life anyway, lads. Helen back.
Brilliant.
Here's your Star Trek one for the week. I can only sleep on a pile of old magazines. You must have back issues.
Oh, Jesus.
And not many people know that Mickey Mouse is actually bald. People are saying they don't like my salads. They say they're too dry. It's something that needs addressing.
Oh, dear me.
Time for a sing-song. Sweet dreams are made of cheese. Who am I to disagree? I cheddar the world and feta cheese. Everybody's looking for Stilton. Fantastic. Well done. I've sent that by a couple of people, actually, so thank you for that. Miss Cole, how are you posting on Facebook but not answer my call? Call again. Missed video call. Like that. I do like that. And 885 at the Co-op UK. No chance when I get to the end. I'll wait till I get to the end of the season and get it on a free. Bosman red wine. And this is the day that Dan Byrne met the Smurfs. Yes, Gary. And another one from Stu. What time are you coming over, mate? 4:23. That's a bit specific. Any particular reason? Well, any time specific when you think about it. Like 4 o'clock's a specific time too. So no more specific than any other time. Yes, thanks, Stu. Dung Beetle walks into a bar and says, "Pardon me, is this stool taken?"
Oh,
very good, Andrew. And back once again for the Renegade Master, D4 Damager, power to the people. Yeah. Now, I attempted a tune there, Ian. I attempted a tune for you, especially. How did you find your steak, sir? I just looked next to the potatoes, and there it was.
Yeah.
And here's a weather-related tweet of the week. For everyone asking how the roads are, I'm fine. Thanks for asking.
Oh.
We've had a lot of storms in the last couple of weeks. And here's the roofers next week.
oh.
And Ian Hull again. I asked my wife what women really want. She said attentive lovers. Or perhaps it was attentive lovers. I wasn't really listening.
Oh.
Star Wars, as you know, I like to feature a Star Wars one on here as well, lads. This is a bit of genius, this. Did you know this? Star Wars was mostly painted. Almost impossible to believe. Most of the epic widescreen science fiction images in the first 3 Star Wars films were done by matte painting artists. That's incredible, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Didn't know that, lads. So there you go. A bit of useless Star Wars stuff for you today. And a little bit of a way of spicing up Jesus. Spice up your wall with a bun Jesus.
Oh.
Oh.
Have you seen a rap version?
Oh no, you'll have to send it. You'll have to send it.
Jesus.
Jesus. There's a tent for sale, lads, and when you see it, you'll know why.
Oh God.
Oh.
And when you've seen it, you cannot unsee it, can you?
Exactly.
No.
And who broke into the bar and stole our limbo stick? Seriously, how low can you go?
Oh.
This could apply to Sunderland as well. By the time this fills up, Tottenham will win the Premier League title. That's been doing the rounds. I've seen that a few times. And Tori sold one of her leopard print coats on Vinted. She says she's never felt more shamed in her life when the feedback was, "Thank you, it's for a fancy dress. It's Cat Slater. I'm sure it'll be fine."
Oh.
Cat Slater, of course, from EastEnders. And received this from Mitch earlier. Just caught my pecker in my zipper. God, it hurts. No more zip-up boots for me.
Oh. He had boasters. He had boasters.
I love this one from Ian Hull. This was great. I found out after 41 years that there are no holes in the pool tables in the Beated video.
Correct.
Very good. Very good.
Just
I did like
not a
that
pool table.
Yeah. And here's some advice for you youngsters. Meet people the old-fashioned way, through alcohol and poor judgment. Hello, millennials. And if you're here for the premature ejaculations meeting, you've come too soon, sir.
Hey.
God.
Ka-ching.
Most people use their phones to call or text people. I'm at the age, and this is me, where I use my phone to take pictures of labels I can't read and use my phone to enlarge the print so I can read it. And for those of you on a diet, I'd like to make you feel better. There's always somebody worse off than you. In only 2 weeks, Robert only lost 2 weeks. And just for those who may report me to any powers that be, I wasn't fat shaming anyone there. It was a joke. And warning to tourists, do not laugh at the natives, a sign that Jimmy has seen somewhere in Sunderland. Thank you, Jimmy. And this one, I'd love this, lad. So this is really me tweet of the week. Somebody sent me this. In line for a quick one. Do you remember this, lads? Newcastle Inn is the sign of the pub.
Aye.
When you're on the right track, it's in Newcastle Inn, you're in.
Yeah.
How many of these is there any of these boozers still around? The Lord Collingwood, the Georgian Dragon is still there.
No, it's gone.
No, the Georgian Dragon on Eldon Square, you're right. It's the George, isn't it? The George up the big market. It's there. The Blackett. The Hotspur is still there, isn't it?
Yeah.
No? Yes. The Haymarket? No, well, that's still there, but it's a different name. The Farmer's Rest, long gone.
Gone.
City Tavern. Royal Archer in Jesmond.
That's gone.
Gone. The Lonsdale in Jesmond.
That's
The
still there.
there.
The Jubilee on Wansbeck Road. The Sun on Four Lane Ends.
The
The Grey
sun's
Horse.
He'll taste that eye.
And the Beaumont in Shiremoor.
Sure.
Monk's Eaton, the Ship and the Monk's Eaton Arms.
Monk's Eaton Arms are still there.
Whitley Bay, the Station and the Ship. Tynemouth, the Royal Sovereign. That must have long gone by now, I think.
It is.
The North Shields Bar was the White Hart.
Uh-huh.
The Seine Boat in Smith's Park. Wallsend, the Anson.
Anson's still there.
Anson's still there.
Percy Arms in Percy Main. The Railway in Walker Gate.
No.
Oh, the Arabian Biker. Still going strong. Isn't it? The Raby must still be going
Raby's
strong.
still there. And I
Yes,
think the Railway in Walker Gate's still there, isn't it? The Railway's the one on the big one on the corner.
The Portland at Manners. New Bridge Street, that's changed hands a load of times, but it's still there.
Portland's gone. Portland went long ago. That's where the new off John Dobson Street. That's when that went, when they put the blue carpet in.
Right, okay.
It was opposite Tiffany's.
Right, got you. The Gloucester and Gateshead Central.
Don't know Gateshead.
Gone that.
Yeah.
And the Maiden Over is gone. It's flattened. It's a house. But the Swan on Sunderland Road is still there. So there you go. A little bit of history. I'm sure all of you who will be sitting watching this now will be going, yeah, I remember that bar. Remember that bar. I'll be bringing back some memories. So that was me. That was me top tweet this week. If you've got any tweets of the week, send them to our Facebook group or Facebook page. Join them, like them, do what you've got to do on there, or send them to me on Twitter, which of course is now called X. Big shout out to Taylor, who was in the chat. He says, I can't wait to have Nobby and Steve in our hometown of Dundee. For all the Newcastle United supporters in Scotland, going to be something special. It's for a great cause too. Yeah, big shout out to you, mate. We'll keep plugging that now up until the 24th of February. It's a cracking place to go as well. Dundee, been up there a few times. Going to go and pay me respects to Desperate Dan at the statue. Question for Amigos. Did any of you lads do a day's pub crawl through all of that lot on the in Metro line?
No.
Mitch?
We did one with the new admission of dental students for 2 or 3 years as part of the dental society at the dental school. That did sort of part of the Metro line and then walking up from the Haymarket, eventually ending up in... what's the pub at the pub near the dental school? Can't remember the bloody name of it now. But yeah, we did something similar.
Was that
messy?
The dental school's equivalent of Leeds Otley Run?
Pretty much, aye.
Yeah. Well, as a teetotaler, even I've done one because, again, student related. The Society for Naval Architects at Newcastle University for several years always had one, and I was harangued as one of the guides and regarded as because I was teetotal, regarded as a safe pair of hands. Like guy did half a dozen of them into the ladies' toilet in a pub in Shields.
I'm not ready further with that one, George.
No. But yes,
Yeah.
I've done one. Yes.
Lots of people in the chat. Big shout out to Richie Southern. Good to see him in the chat as well. You're always welcome, mate, on the fans forum if you want to jump on, mate, when you're ready. Ian says, think we need a couple, at least one, to get everyone thinking positive again. You can't wait for injured players to come back that could break down, which is what Eddie said in his press conference. Yeah. Richard Morris says, brilliant show, lads. Quality show, Steve, with the boys. I've been watching for years. David Cook, I will certainly send you the details, mate, and you can give Taylor a ring and sort yourself a ticket out. Why did we make so much noise about being allowed to get Saudi deals, but then not used to our advantage? We didn't. The press did.
Yeah.
I still think that could be a possibility. I'm going to ask you, lads, about Hall, because Sean asked earlier, should we pull out the Hall deal, Mitch? Do you think it's a lot of money? If we're being honest, we've got no idea if he's good. One game versus Man U aside, I'd like to see money go further. Any thoughts?
I think there is something odd about the whole situation with Hall. And I still wonder, was it a signing made for Eddie Howe or one that Eddie wanted? And I'm still not sure. He's managed him very, very, very carefully to the point of I can see why people are asking questions. However, there's no doubt he's a talent. I get the feeling that they and he don't know what his best position is. And they want to get that established before they then go forward. We've still got a lot of football to play. And he could come into the reckoning in midfield. He could come into the reckoning at left fullback. He could come into the reckoning in another way. But whatever they seem to be doing, they seem to be honing him to one. North Terrace, yes, that's absolutely it. Used to end with doing yards of ale in the North Terrace, which I believe I'm still on the board there at some stage. I think I'm third or something like that. Anyway, that was. I tell you what,
you were first for a long time.
It came out quicker than it went in. Anyway, he's been handled in a very unusual way, and I think that's why everybody's sort of like questioning what's going on. However, when he has contributed, he's contributed well for me. So, as a young talent, and he ticks a lot of boxes from a FFP, from a squad building perspective, from satisfying homegrown and ticking boxes there and things like that. I don't see why not go ahead with it, because 25 million seems to be nothing for a young English player these days. The market's all over the place.
The Lewis Hall one, George, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, like Neil, it's puzzling the way it's all been treated, but the little bit I've seen him, he's a talented footballer. And I think we did discuss some time ago whether or not Howe sees something in him, but he wants him to play in a particular way. And until he gets that right, he's going to be in the shadows. But I've got to agree with the questioner. If that's true, it's a heck of a lot of money to take a chance on like that. So I'm sure they're thinking about it, because there's certainly a talented player there. There's no question. Is he a talented player for us? Is the real one? And I'm sure if Eddie Howe thinks there is, then the lad will get a chance.
Steve?
Mitch said he's caught between being a fullback and a midfielder. If he was a midfielder, he would have been playing in midfield. When we've had a dearth of midfield players, when we've had if he was a fullback, he would have played ahead of Dan Burn, and then he would have also came in for Dan Burn when Dan Burn was injured. But instead, we played a right side fullback as left fullback. Maybe his problem is he came at the same time as Livramento, and he's being compared to Livramento in training, and we've seen the progress of Livramento as opposed to a lack of progress possibly for Hall. Harrison Ashby, was it Harrison Ashby that we bought?
Yes, yeah.
And immediately farmed him out. And haven't heard anything about him coming back. Haven't heard anything. So that's another youngster. So we
got roasted playing for Swansea the other night against Bournemouth.
That's right, yeah. So we started picking up youngsters, and we're looking as though we were looking towards the future and filling our squad up with young English talent that wasn't needed or didn't think it had a chance at either West Ham or Chelsea. And in Ashby, he was farmed out for a season at the same time as we brought Hall in, who's never got a look. I find it very odd. And again, I mean, we mentioned there before that there seems to now, I mean, looking at the comments, somebody said that that Eddie didn't actually say he had nothing to do with it or hadn't seen it or whatever. There was it was a twist of words. Was it possibly similar? Somebody upstairs going and saying, "Well, we can get this lad. It's just on a loan with a view to a permanent deal next season," and they're looking towards offloading players. Perhaps he's there because we're losing Matt Ritchie, left-sided. Maybe it's the same as someone with a little bit of versatility. The only trouble is the players that are versatile and can play all over the pitch, the Paul Maidleys that George will remember, could never decide whether he was a full-back, a centre-half, a sweeper, a midfielder, and it tends to jeopardise their career going forward.
That one you mentioned, though, Steve, if he'd picked a position, he was good at them all, and he would have played for England. And that had his England career because he couldn't, he couldn't settle.
And I think Steve Watson's a perfect recent example of that.
Exactly.
A player who played everywhere but goalkeeper. He probably played goalkeeper for us as well. Centre forward, full backs, midfield, wing, you name it. There, Stevie Watson played it for us. Can you imagine what the wall must be like in his house? He's got every number from 2 to 11 with his name on it.
He did actually play in goal at school, Steve. I can tell you that for nothing.
Oh, well, there you go.
Go on, Mitch. I think you wanted to bring something up tonight. The floor is yours, sir.
Something that's broken while we've been on air. In the Belgian league, there was a game between Genk and Anderlecht played on the 23rd of December. And a court has just ruled it must be replayed because of a VAR error.
No.
Wow.
No.
Wow.
God, we're going to be top of the league by a couple of weeks.
Genk took it to court, and the court has ruled the game must be replayed.
Oh my God. That's mental.
Now, what kind of worms have we just unearthed here?
Well,
speaking of our resident judge, George, that's a different country, so it's a different jurisdiction.
It still goes into the European Court, and despite what our government thinks, our Supreme Court still takes notice of the European Court. So if it goes to the European Court and they pick up what Belgium said, and they're part of the European system, then it's going to come hurtling across the channel at 100 miles an hour. And if Clippity Club's looking at that, by God, he'll make mincemeat of that. Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
that's my understanding, Steve. Is if it's in the European system and the European Court backs it up, and I can't see how they won't when it's in Belgium, then our Supreme Court would handle it as well. So it could be amazing. But frankly, if they're as awful as ours are, they've brought it on themselves. That's all I can say.
Here's the thing. Where does that leave us with PSG?
Well, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. A European team. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
This is the sort of thing, though, when a decision gets made like that any appeal, it's either you don't appeal and you just allow it to and just play the replay because it's a sport and integrity, or if they go to appeal, it'll not get heard for 2 years. By which time the season's over, the decision's made, and then you get into some sort of compensation argument. And we all know how they go. You look at the Tevez situation, in Mascherano, or was it when they were out there, West Ham, and then the situation with Sheffield United, the situation that's still lurking around Everton, and there was also a very interesting one. I don't know whether you picked up on this, guys, but Derby County put their accounts out the other day.
Yes.
And within the accounts was a little addendum that said they'd given £2.5 million to Middlesbrough as compensation because Middlesbrough were taking them to court, if you remember, because Middlesbrough said they missed out on the playoffs because Derby had been done for breach of rules, etc. And then went bust. And they asked for 100 million. They got 2.5 because at the end of the day, there was no guarantee that the Borough were going to finish in the top 6 anyway. As it happened, they didn't finish in the top 6. And even if you'd finished in the top 6, there was no guarantee you would have hit that holy grail of being promoted. But out of court, there was a settlement with the administrator to smooth the area, and Borough got £2.5 million in cash. So,
wow.
We're entering so many situations with football at the moment where a lawyer could step in and change a direction.
Yeah.
I believe it's a Belgian court, mainstream court.
Then
not a league appeals.
When was the last time a Belgian court got done over? Was it a Bosman by any chance?
Yeah.
Possibly.
Possibly.
That's where it would start, Steve. That's where it would start.
I think it was Belgian, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think it was the Belgian league.
Yes. That's where it would start.
Mm-hmm. By the way, we are an hour and a half into the show, and there still hasn't been a break in this Klopp coverage on Sky. I genuinely cannot believe that they've gone on for an hour and a half, 90 minutes, a full game of football, and now we've moved into a Jurgen Klopp special. What the hell have we been suffering for the last hour and a half? For God's sake!
Is this just images of him pulling his hamstring, chasing the fourth official across the pitch?
Yeah.
I mean, look, I hope Jurgen Klopp lives a long and prosperous life. I dread the day that he does pass away. I mean, if this is the kind of stuff we'll get when he's leaving a job, what are we going to get? What we're going to get when he does pass away? Damn it, we didn't get this for Bobby Charlton, the guy who won the World Cup. Come on, man. Where's the sense of even the yellow strip along the bottom is the yellow strip along the bottom is all about him. There's nothing else. There's nothing else happening.
I don't think Sky even give the bloody Queen an hour and a half.
They didn't. Well, this is, honestly, George, this is ludicrous. I mean, I've deliberately left it on in the background.
I seen it earlier, and I was so sickened by it, I had to put it off. And that
one
was
of the best tweets I saw was, I think it was Steve Walwork on Twitter. He put up Jurgen Klopp's packing in because he said he's exhausted. He's running out of steam. And they said, well, if he hadn't ran up and down the touchline for the last 8 years, he wouldn't have been tired.
if he'd spent less time worrying about us and complaining to the media about us, maybe he'd be a bit more calm.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Xabi Alonso, of course, getting linked with a job. They have a slight break to talk about somebody who they reckon that Sky's picking the manager. He's in a job, for God's sake. He's an ex-Liverpool player.
As they say in Germany, Kartoffelkopf.
Yeah, well, there you go. Exactly. We've got about half an hour to go, guys. We're going to go through Toon Lookalike next, and we're going to have to look ahead to the Fulham game. I definitely featured in dispatches this week in Lookalike, but there's been some great ones. Jobadini says, Lookalike, assuming you'll do it on Friday. On the left is Richard Lineback playing Ramos in an episode of Star Trek Next Generation. And on the right is Jason Sudeikis from Ted Lasso and all sorts of stuff. Very good, that.
Yeah. Very good.
I like that one. Not knowing I've got a few potential winners. Tom Dixon sent a few in. Peter Beale from EastEnders and Patrick Bamford.
Yeah.
I told you the standard had gone up.
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear Steve's? Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I like this. Martin Wolford and Jack from On the Buses. Another good one from Tom. And then these ones, which we seem to be getting sent in on a regular basis. Karen Gillan, Brittany Robertson.
Very good.
Ralph Fiennes and Bradley Cooper.
That is good.
Zoe Deschanel and Alexis Bleedle.
Yeah.
Very good. I'm sure there's a bit of jiggery pokery going on with those ones.
Yeah.
Same as this.
Dear me.
Poor Daniela Westbrook. She does get hammered on these lookalikes. Paul O'Grady. Paul O'Grady and Alan Pardew. Another good one, Tom.
Very clever.
You've had a good role this week, I've got to be honest. And this one, Aaron Ashmore of Smallville and Wayne Rooney.
That's good, Dad.
It's good.
Yeah.
Another Tom Dixon classic. The Hoggle from the Labyrinth. I do like that one. It is good. It's another good likeness. We had one of Mitch, which I missed last week.
Oh, dear me.
Rowley from Grange Hill. Roland. And thank you for this one. Hellboy and James Milner. I think that was Mark Byers, if I remember rightly. Miss Mozza, thank you. Chris Wood and Michael Dawson.
That is spooky, that.
And this one never grows old. My art teacher said I was a terrible at art until my dad came to parents' evening. I took that into lookalike just because of the face. This is a slightly different lookalike. Senegal flag and the Cameroon flag. Cameroon coach and the Senegal coach.
Copies.
Copies. I can't remember who sent this one in, but I can see where you're coming from with the forehead.
Yeah.
Slight lookalike, but not a great one, but a slight lookalike. Ron Livingston and Kyle Chandler. So. And this one from Jimmy. Martin Luther King came back to play for the Ravens.
Now, it's not just Jimmy, but I think that was all over Twitter in America and was all over the sports as well. Everybody was talking about it.
Well, that's where Jimmy is. So he's clearly picked up on that, which is a good one. This one from Rita of me. And Morton Harkin from Aha, which I got that one. I like that one.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Not as accurate as the Steve Hasty ones that Rita sent in.
Yep. Waiting for them.
Thank you. She's on holiday in Poland, so she sent you a white-crested cuckoo, which is a Polish chick, and a cattle factory white Polish chicken, because her and Geordie are away for a trip away. Geordie's birthday. Happy birthday to him, by the way. And she did send this one as well. Because we're in Poland, the Polish selection of chickens for you, Hasty.
I love the way she threw our first one in of herself, just to lull us into a false sense of security.
I think the top one's pretty like you, Steve. That one, the top one.
Thanks, Steve.
The white-crested cuckoo. That's definitely great. I can hear Keith laughing from you. Timmy Mallet and Howard Jones.
Wow.
Another good one. Last few. Sergio Ramos and young Joseph Stalin from Tom.
Mm-hmm.
And Pablo Zabaleta and Peter Jacobson from Tom.
Yeah.
Toby Jones and Joe Cocker. Another one from Rita.
That's not bad.
Big forehead.
And top four. Rio Ferdinand and Snoop Dogg from Tom Dixon.
Drugs.
Number 3. Angry Mac and Granny and Green Close from Tom Lynch. Number 3, sorry, is this one. Josham Lowe and Rand Moss from South Park. This is number 2. Daddy Al-Ramayan, thanks for this one. Darren Eels and the vicar from BBC This Country, Paul Shahid.
It looks like Two-Face, the bloody Batman villain.
It does, yes. And number 1 this week, because it's somebody new. Thanks, Arthur. Junior Soprano. And Steve Riff.
Oh, dear.
Thank you, Arthur. I'll give you that one, mate. Very good. Keep your lookalikes coming in. Usual place. If you send them across to us at Twitter or join our Facebook group and page, and we will feature them on the show next week. Okay, I had over 640 watching tonight. Thanks so much for watching, folks. As I say, we never take it for granted. As always, we look ahead to the games, and Newcastle United, of course, taking on Fulham, which is an FA Cup 4th round tie at Craven Cottage, and it's live 7:00 start on ITV4. All away tickets have been sold, 3,800 we have. And on the advice of the home club, random ID checks won't take place tomorrow. That is because of the consequence of congestion at the turnstiles against Liverpool last Wednesday. In anticipation of similar delays on Saturday, they've recommended getting there well before kickoff. Don't forget, and it is confusing. People going, is there extra time? Is it penalties? What is it? Well, tomorrow it's level after 90 minutes. It's a replay, and the date set for that is the 6th of February, unless it gets televised. It could be a day earlier. It could be a day later. The winners will take their place in the 5th round draw, which is on Sunday. If it's a draw, of course, we'll be in it anyway. The draw takes place before Liverpool Norwich, which is 2:30 kickoff on Sunday, so probably be around about 2 o'clock. Ball number will be 16, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. As I've already said today, the press conference, Eddie Howe confirmed that Jacob Murphy was back in training, but stopped short of saying he was playing, although I would imagine he would feature. I've still got a feeling Harvey Barnes isn't as far away as he keeps saying. Didn't give anything on Willock, of course. We know that Joe Linton, Nick Pope and Tonali won't feature at all for various reasons. Callum Wilson is probably not going to be fit until Aston Villa. And Matt Targett and Elliot Anderson are both on the comeback trail, but no firm dates. Joe White is cup-tied, but will feature in the squad for the rest of the season now that he is back, if required. Referee, Jared Gillette, second game in charge. The other one was the Carabao Cup defeat at Chelsea. VAR, which is often switched off and now has been overturned by a court of law in another country, is run by Robert Jones. And if you want to watch it out and about in the town, Freight, Newcastle behind High Bridge, Pumphrey's in the Big Market, and the Dog and Parrot on Clayton Street West will have the game on. There's a fan zone at Market Shaker in the Big Mart as well, if you want to get along there. As always, with our little build-up on this show, we always have Toon Stato to give us a few stats. So here is the man himself, Andre.
Hello everyone. FA Cup 4th round tomorrow for Newcastle. Our last realistic chance of winning some silverware this season, finally. Let's look into the stats to see what do they say. We have 4 games against Fulham in the FA Cup and 4 wins, the last being in 1961. Actually, every time we have played them, we have scored at least 4 goals, and we have even scored 6 and 5 on 2 of the occasions. And the total number of goals in these 4 games is 24, which makes it the second most high-scoring game in the history of the FA Cup for any 2 teams. They have played at least 4 games. Now, for Eddie Howe, this will be a first game in the FA Cup against Premier League opposition. And the funny stat is that so far in 9 games with Bournemouth and Burnley, he has 1 draw and 8 defeats. He has never won against Premier League opposition in the FA Cup. Having said that, Newcastle is on a run of 7 consecutive defeats in the FA Cup against Premier League opposition or top flight opposition, which is an equal record from Liverpool and Charlton. 7. No team ever in the top flight English history has lost 8 consecutive games against fellow top flight opposition. Fulham, on the other hand, they lost the semi-final the other day against Liverpool, and last season they eliminated Sunderland in the 4th round to reach the 5th round of the competition. They have not reached the 5th round in consecutive seasons for more than 13 years. Let's see how it goes tomorrow. It's going to be an enjoyable game. I'll also be in London, so let's hope that our run continues.
Thank you, Andrea. Safe trip and enjoy the game, as Rob Byron says.
Scunny Magpie here with a double dose of away day guides for our 2 back-to-back fixtures. Got all you need to know for Fulham in the Cup and Villa on Tuesday night. It's coming up next. Okay, so Fulham. For fans arriving by train, it is a little bit of a walk from the closest tube station, Putney Bridge on the District line, which pretty much links up with almost everywhere in the city. If you're driving in, there's plenty of park and rides around London. If you're thinking of staying over, the best value you'll find nearby is the St Christopher's Inn. It's a youth hostel. I use them loads. I've got one at Hammersmith. The price will fluctuate depending on demand, but £20 a night is a realistic expectation, and you'll also get discounted food and drink with your key card. I was paying around about £4.10, £4.15 a pint last time I stopped there, which you can't fault in London. You can find that square second sunk. There's a Premier Inn. The what 3 words for that one is entry reject fast, and once you're settled in, or if you aren't stopping and you're looking for a beer, there's quite a decent selection of pubs. I'll do the one closest to Putney Bridge Station first. It's called the 8 Bells. It's behind the Premier Inn. It's on Fulham High Street, and your what 3 words is nobody scam scuba. After that one, towards the ground, you have the King's Arms on the corner of the New King's Road and Fulham High Street. This is always a favourite destination with fans. It's big, it's spacious, it's well set up for match days, it can accommodate a lot of fans. Your what 3 words for the front is half locked always. And just over the road you've got the Temperance, but if you've found the King's Arms already, just turn around and look across the junction, can't miss it. When you finish drinking, you're ready to head to the ground. The away turnstiles are on the southeast corner, just to the left of the old cottage building, which you can't miss as you arrive. It's a quicker walk along the river from the pubs than it is going around the main road, but you have to go through the park and stuff for that. Your what 3 words for the away fan turnstiles is local, regard, noisy. Okay, so let's look at Villa Park. If you're coming on the train, the closest train station is Witton, and it's 500 metres from the away turnstiles. And if you're driving in, the club recommended parking is on Aston Lane at the junction of Tyne Road. Postcode for that one is Bravo 6 7 Delta Sierra, and you can find the entrance with the what 3 words of Going Limbs Chef. This one will set you back between £5 and £7 for a normal car, but they also accommodate minibuses, which is quite handy for smaller groups not travelling on the coaches. Last I checked, they charge £12 for a minibus, and it is just across the road from the official coach park as well. If you're making a night of it and planning on staying over, the Aston Inn is just like a stone's throw from the stadium. It's round the corner at the end of the street. It has a bar with Sky Sports and plenty of car parking available there. Your what 3 words are Thick Lush Town, and your postcode is Bravo 6 7 Juliet Uniform. And then moving on to the important stuff, where are we going to get a beer? If you use the club recommended parking, as you come out of there, turn right, you'll find the Yew Tree pub just up the road. You can find that at Offers Friday Occupy. And then the final option is slightly closer. It's on your way to the ground from there, and it's perfect if you're arriving on the train to Witton, as it's just outside the train station. It's called the Witton Arms, and it's set up for both home and away fans. The pub's split front to back. The away fans will get the front. It's a good sized venue with outside drinking areas, and the old what 3 words is Spite Limbs Groups, and it's about 300 metres from the turnstiles as you roll out of the front gates. So when you are ready to go to the ground, you'll be housed in the Doug Ellis stand. Your turnstiles will be P87 to 89 for the upper tier and Q91 to 96 for the lower tier. Your what 3 words for the away turnstiles area is Song Tricky Pipes. Thanks for watching. I've been Paul. Have a cracking day.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Paul, and thank you, Andre. It was a slightly big file. That was why I got caught out. I had to load it a different way, and it just came on. But yeah, Newcastle. The season does really rest on this FA Cup run now. Eddie Howe's job, does it rest on the FA Cup run? I'd say no, but it's not going to be well thought of, I would imagine, by PIF if we go out at this hurdle and we've only got the league to play for. But we will look at that another day, should the worst happen. But Mitch, this really is for me it's a big game, and I've used the catchphrase I think a few times on this show. It's the biggest game because it's our next one. And I think I've probably picked that up from Eddie Howe in his press conferences, because it is a fact. It is true. But yeah, this is big because we're on the crest of a slump with our league form. We managed to beat the Mackhams, which really how bad they are. It's hardly the greatest of achievements, let's face it. But we beat them comprehensively at their own ground, and we can sit back and be smug about that. But this is a big game. Fulham played midweek. I'm hoping that's tired them out a little bit. But this is everything's on this. Yeah, we're putting everything on black 20 here, Mitch. Really.
Yeah, we are. We are. It's a competition we can win. Let's be honest about it. We're talking about we want to think like a big club in the transfer market. We should be thinking like a big club in every way. We're pissed off that we're out of the Champions League. We were 30 minutes from staying in it. We were 30 seconds from going through to a winnable semi in the League Cup. And we're pissed off about that. So let's take that anger and use it as a positive and turn it on Fulham. We saw off Sunderland. That genuinely didn't take much. We had other gears if we really needed it. Let's be honest. They were meek. Didn't give us the game that they talked about. And we progressed comfortably. Fulham will give us a harder game. They should do. They're a Premier League outfit. They've got some good players. We have better players, even with the injury situation we've got. There's no reason why we can't go to Craven Cottage with a positive mindset and with an attitude that we can win this competition. We've proved in the Carabao Cup that away draws at difficult places don't hold much fear for it. So an away draw, not such a daunting place to go, almost a friendly place to go, gives us an opportunity. So let's think like a big club and go there thinking we can win this and win this competition. And I don't see why we can't. I know a lot of us will be using the three words of tightly clenched sphincter over the weekend. But to be fair, I think this is genuinely an opportunity that we've got to grasp with both hands. And we might come away with the thought of the three words, tickle my sack. So hopefully we're all smiling at the end of it. But it's an opportunity, and we've got to think like a big club and go there like a big club and say, we can win this. We're here. We're going to progress. You've got to chuck your best at us to even think about getting past it. And I think we'll do that. There's no reason why we can't progress to the next round.
George?
Yeah. My 3 words is that's my boy. I like Fulham as a club, and it has happy memories for me because my very first serious away game was the one in the 50s where we beat them 5-4. What a hell of a game, where for us Jackie Milburn starred, and for them a lad called Chamberlain starred, and he made his career on that one game, got several big transfers out of it, and good luck to him. So I always enjoyed seeing the trips to Fulham. Neil's absolutely right. We've got nothing to fear. Whatever 11 he puts out should be able to beat Fulham. Be positive about it. Don't hang back. Don't be shy about it. Give it a real go. Nobody would be upset. What people will be upset about is if we hang back and play totally negative. We've got the skill and the players to win this game. Let's win it. Not even with a replay. Let's win it straight away. So I'm positive about it and looking forward to it actually. And already see number 16 in the draw for the next one. So that's how positive I am, and I'm really looking forward to it. It has a very positive vibe for me, and as I say, happy memories. That actually on that trip to Fulham, I was allowed to go on the Hollands bus trip with all the family and me uncles and so on and their mates, and had me first Coke. I think it was a Pepsi. I don't think it was a Coca-Cola. I think it was a Pepsi. First time I'd ever had one when I was there, and sitting in the corner of a pub while they all got tanked up. It was good memories, and I want good memories for this game as well. Go there and be very positive and win handsomely.
Okay, Steve, it is a win or bust situation for me, I still think.
Yeah, I know exactly where you come from, and I think I mentioned it in midweek that the importance of the cup now for Newcastle United, not just to keep the season going, but also to generate that winning feeling and that winning mentality again. I mean, Mitch mentioned the Sunderland game. Yeah, we won it at a canter. We didn't come out of second gear. We then had a break, and then we played Man City. And let's not forget, although Man City dominated in terms of possession for a long stretch of that game, we got 2-1. They did us in the last 5 minutes and then in injury time. So, you look at it and you've got to say there were positives that have got to come from it, but it's the mental aspect. And Eddie's got to recreate that mental aptitude that he built around that squad, that confidence that was always there, that never say die attitude. They've got to stop this crazy situation that's occurred recently and built up a bit of a momentum, which is conceding goals in the last 5, 6, 7 minutes. It's a 90-minute concentration game, and maybe some of that does go down to Eddie in terms of how he utilises his bench or hasn't been able to, and maybe he's with a couple of players coming back. It might give him that ability to just freshen it up in midfield in the last 15, 20 minutes, or be able to shut up shop or whatever, something he couldn't do against City. He also couldn't weigh up what to do with Kevin De Bruyne, could we? So, but I mean, that's a different story altogether. So I think it's an important game. I think it's the whole club is erring towards looking for success, and you can't just throw this away because league form's gone out of the window, and you've got a game on Tuesday night. They're fresh. They've had a fortnight's break. We heard so much before and over the Christmas period and before that about the heavy workload that we'd had. But the players should be fresh, should be refreshed. Had an opportunity to be on the training pitch, which we saw against City again, the organisation, where Eddie does play a lot of sway on setting them up in the right way, understanding the plan, drilling the plan into them, etc., etc. So I'm going in with the positivity that I expect Eddie to be drilling into his team tomorrow. So looking forward to it. I'm listening to George. It's a ground I enjoyed going to, Fulham. It's that oldie worldy, the cottage in the corner and all that type of thing. Yes, they've jinxed it up and they've built a brand new stand where it's costing Fulham fans about a lifetime of money to be able to go and sit in. Crazy stuff. Apparently there's jacuzzis and all sorts. It's probably worse than Chelsea now. I mean, Chelsea have put a bed in the ground, haven't they? For God's sake, what's that all about? We had a few words about that, but we'll leave that to the column, and people can make their own assumptions on why they did that and who it was sitting in the screen. Don't want to go there. And just to finish off, Steve, I mean, somebody asked just a little thing, asked about my nephew on his recuperation. He's doing really well. He's been back doing a little bit of ball work. He's followed the path that needed to be followed, that was put to him by the surgeon. He stuck to it rigidly. And what's really interesting as well is that he entered into some training sessions with the lads down at Blythe, and they all held off. They all allowed him to just play at his own pace. Nobody went into him. It was one of those no touch for him, touch for everybody else, but you keep away and you allow him to just work his way back in, which I thought was an excellent bit of work by the coaches to get that into the lads. So very, very impressed. But I think you'd probably write the season off. I think at this stage in the game, with so many fixtures that are not that haven't been played because of the weather, I think it would be silly, and I think he's decided it would be silly to push himself and try to get back in for the end of the season. And he's probably just going to work his way through from fitness and hopefully start fresh next season. So that's what you've got to do when you're young, and when you're doing ACL, you've just got to take it careful and don't be like some players who come in back too early and invariably end up doing it again.
Good luck, Sonny, in your recovery. He's a top lad. And, let's hope he does well. Just a minute, Judge. Paul Ferguson said, Scunny Mag said, just found tightly clenched sphincter, and it looks like some dental practice reception with his what three words. Go on, George.
That old game that I went to at Fulham, Newcastle beat Fulham 5-4 at Craven Cottage. There was a piece of video on Twitter the other night of that match, and if you can see it, it's got some good crowd scenes with lots of people with one of these in the crowd.
Yeah, brilliant, man. We've missed that, George, from our watch-alongs.
Well, do you want to
do it?
Get me signed off.
I get a letter from next door.
You will. Let's have the dice prediction, Mitch, and your prediction.
Dice prediction says, it's gone around the back, so I've got no idea. Says 0-2, so that would be 2-0 to us.
Okay, and your prediction?
3-0 to us.
3-0. I've gone 2-1. George, what about you?
Penman 3-1.
3-1 for you. And Steve?
I went for a 2-1 win to Newcastle as well, and I'm also predicting that the 5th round draw will be put back because there'll be all sorts of memorials towards Jurgen Klopp before that Liverpool Norwich game, and we might end up getting the draw around about Wednesday.
Paul Patterson says they'll be wearing black armbands for the FA Cup rounds, which is probably. Jody Tumbalay says the kickoff against Fulham's delayed. They're doing a Klopp special. Sorry to those of you whose questions we didn't get to, but we will be back with the professionals on Sunday for an hour and a half. So if you've got a few questions that you want to ask, then maybe drop them over. We do have time to squeeze in a little bit of humour. And big thanks to Elliot for sending in this one. My friend's making a world record attempt to make the longest queue. We should all get behind him.
Oh, God.
Hurry up, snooker player.
It is brilliant stuff. Thanks to everybody who's joined in tonight in the chat. Thanks to all the mods. And as I say, like I've said it 3 times now, with 650 watching live on a Friday night. Always a pleasure having you there.
Absolutely.
And we never take it for granted. I will be back tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon. I haven't decided yet to do the Eddie Howe press conference. It's a 7 o'clock kickoff, so I can take my time. But I will definitely be on at some point tomorrow. I might do a little bit of a Q&A as well. And then Sunday will be the professionals in the morning because Stu's got to go to work. And I think, if I remember rightly, we said 9:30, which I think me and Mitch agreed to. So keep an eye out for that. I'll stick the link up for that for everybody to look at and find. And just subscribe. If you're watching on TV, you can do us a big favor. Just subscribe. It's free. And if you hit all your notifications, you'll get notified about all the shows. If you don't want that, just subscribe. It's free. It does us a favor, helps the channel grow. And I'm pleased to see a lot of you have been doing it. 140 new subscribers in the last 2 weeks. So thank you for doing it. Makes a big difference. And have a great weekend. Don't let the football spoil it. But from me, Mitch, George, and Steve, good night. Take care. And
night, everybody.
See you tomorrow.
Thanks for watching.
Cheers, everyone.
See you all.